Hello. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about doodling with noodles. And here I have a very delicious little bowl of noodles, just waiting for something to happen to them. If you remember, my noodles are strips of fabric and they're cut 1.5 inches wide. So I've been cutting these strips 1.5 inches wide. Usually I cut them right the way across the width of the fabric, so I know I'm going to get somewhere in the region of 42 inches in length of noodle. By 1.5 inches wide, so that when we sew them together we end up with 1 inch finished strips, which is a very pleasing size. And with the aid of a sewing machine, of course, we can turn our noodles into something particularly delicious. So I'm going to show you today, rather than make you watch me do loads of 1/4 inch seams, I've already sewn some strips together. So I'm just going to show you how to make a simple block, and this is what I've done. So I've actually got 5 strips here, so the block finished, unsewn, will be a 5.5 inch. It'll measure 5.5 inches across, because I've got 5 strips plus my little 1/4 inch each side of the seam allowance. And because I want my blocks to be square, I'm going to be cutting them so that they're 5.5 inches in the other direction as well. So I've made some blocks like this, where I've got my dark in the middle and my lighter ones on the outside. And here I've got some strips that I've already sewn together, as you can see, where I've actually reversed those colours. So where I've got the dark in the middle and the light on the outside, here I've got the light in the middle and the dark on the outside. And I'll show you shortly how much difference it can make as to where you place colours and things. So to make a small quilt, I needed to have 2 lots of these strips sewn together. So I've made both lots of strips, and I'm going to lay them on my board and use the markings on my board to help me cut the 5.5 inch blocks. So this is a 5.5 inch wide strip, as is this one, by the full width of my fabric. I'm just going to lay them on the board, and I'm going to cut them both at once because I'm a little bit lazy like that, and I like to do all my cutting as quickly as possible. And so instead of laying them exactly on top of each other, I've staggered them a little bit so that the seams are sitting over the flat areas, so that you don't get a double bump, because that would cause your ruler possibly to slip around a little bit, which is not helpful. When you're sewing long strips together with your 1/4 inch seam allowance, you just need to be a little bit aware that they tend to one wants to stretch, and so it can sort of curve a little bit. So just be aware of how they're feeding through on your machine. And when it comes to pressing them, same thing. Just press them so that their seams sit towards the darker colour in general, and also so that they're maintaining as much as possible of the straightness that you were after with the blocks. So now I'm just going to cut up for you, so you can see I've got both strips, one on top of the other, but staggered so the seams are not on top of each other. And I'm just going to trim off my ends, and then I'm just going to come along 5.5 inches markings on the board, and I'm going to cut 2 blocks at a time. Pretty cool. And I'm going to go all the way along here. This is where these big boards are really great, because you can just walk all the way along, cutting lots of nice things out. So I've gone as far as I can go on my board now, so I'm going to pick them up and just bring the rest of the fabric, because I should get another block out of what's left there. I'll bring it back to the beginning here, and I know that I can get one more block out of there, so I'm going to come along the 5.5 inches again. So out of a strip, the 42 inches wide, there's going to be a little bit left over, but I can get, I think it's 7 blocks along that length, because they're 5.5 inches. So you can see this is the block I started with, and this is the block I've now got, so the colours are reversed. So what I've cut them out for is just to make a small quilt, which I can show you. Well, I'll show you first of all the layout that I'm going to use with these blocks that we've just cut. So I'm going to turn one block one way, and then I'm going to turn the next block the other way. And that's kind of all it is. We're just alternating the direction of the blocks. And on the next row, you alternate again the other way. So you'll end up with this delicious looking little quilt. You might of course choose some completely different colours. So just alternate all the blocks and you get this very nice sort of almost a basket weavy. These ones start sort of weaving under, these ones going over that way. So it's quite a fun little block to do. You can do different things inside it. Oops, did we have any more blocks? No, that's as many blocks as we've got. We're going that way, that's why. So to me that's a really nice little pleasing quilt. I really like that little stripe that I've got in there, and I love dots, so we're doing really well. And I'll show it to you now. I've made it up into a small quilt top, as I said earlier, with the reversed colours, so that my light and dark are reversed. So this is the small quilt that I've made. So the blocks here have got the light either side and that dark down the middle, but that green has stayed constant in both of them. So I just thought I'd show you just some quick ideas of doodling with noodles, because I find them so much fun. And this is a really pretty little quilt. You could put all sorts of different colours and things in your strips and make it a very effective look. So I think that it's quite interesting how it can look quite different with the two different, just those two colours swapped around. And that's the only difference in those two designs. So that was my little doodle with noodles today. Thank you.